In a changing organization, all change takes emotional energy out of you, even the best change in the world. My kids are transitioning and some of them are starting to have their own home. This is perfectly normal and it hurts. The same sort of thing that happens with us as an organization as we grow. We have new people, they're like, who are these people? They weren't here a year ago. Some people aren't here anymore. Some diversity of vision, it all has an emotional toll. I want to work through how do we do that in a healthy way. Sometimes it's just right to say, this hurts, it hurts. I don't know everybody like I used to know, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's good to say what's hurting me specifically. What that does, it helps me to identify it and then go, but I'm here for the long haul. This is right. You know what I mean? Growth is normal and I'm okay with where we're going. That grieving process, if you will, even in just a one narrative, it helps you to have long-term endurance through a company that's got a lot of momentum. So that's kind of what I want to do, is just lead the company through that a little bit. Looking at the organization, I love to zoom out. We talk a lot about zooming out and zooming in, and I've been zooming out lately, just looking at where we are, the arc of where we are. And I'm noticing, obviously, what everybody's feeling. There's a lot of change. You know, there has been change, and if we just zoom out far enough, gosh, we used to all be in the building. Now we're all at different houses. We're larger. You know, since I took over as CEO a couple of years ago, we've doubled the size, physical size of the organization. We're now launching our third flagship coming out this year. That's different. We used to only be a church planting company. We only help people get started. As soon as they launched, we were like, Lord bless you, you know. Now we do bookkeeping. Now we're launching into more tools and on and on. I just see all of this change. And I want to be able to go the long term. I want everybody that's here now, I want us to be able to go the distance, even in change. And here's what happens. If we don't have certain skills, change can take people out. Change can also turn a great job into a miserable job if you don't know how to handle change. Change can make you bail too quick. You know, sometimes you're in a change season of an organization and you don't like the pain of it, so you ditch. But if you know how to navigate through change, through transition, both positive and negative, if you have a certain framework or skills, you can really have a long-term impact. Think of companies that have grown from nothing to large organizations, how many changes they've gone through. The only way to do that is to have a framework. That's what I want to talk about. That's a great question. I think what's interesting to note right now is most of our change and transition is due to momentum, not even by innovation. I was talking to our marketing department this morning and talking about, and I forget exactly what the framework was, but it was something like mass times speed equals momentum. Both things have happened with us. Both in that we're larger, our mass is larger. I think as of this morning we had 103 or something like that, well over 100 people working for us. So our mass has gotten larger and our speed has gotten larger. We started over 2,300 churches last year. We could outpace that this year. So that speed is happening plus innovation. Are we going too fast? I don't even know that we have really touched on the innovation gas pedal as much yet. I know we got Halo coming, I can't wait. There's so much other opportunity before us that we're saying no to because the inertia of our momentum is so great. I was recently talking with Playal, who's our VP of Product Strategy, and he was seeing the vault, if you will. We started opening the door and saying, here's all the products we have. Here's how many we're selling each month. And you could see his eyes go, oh, we can sell so much of this. We can do so much better. And here's what we had to say. Now we have to close the vault and say we have no time to work on any of that. So we're actually saying no to a lot of things. We're saying no to different product innovations. Poor Christine, she probably gets hit up once a month with me going, oh, I've got a great idea for a new product. I know we can't do it, but just, she's got a shelf full of ideas. We actually say no to a ton. We say no to a ton of innovations internally because I know we have had so much change already. So yeah, there's a lot of places where we're using brake and not gas. Again, when the mass of an organization grows and the natural speed, success in one thing can begin to develop its own speed. So we're good at starting churches. We've been doing that for 21 years. It has gained its own speed. All of a sudden we started bookkeeping. It took on the speed of our Start Right program. You know, all of a sudden, wow, not only are they good at this, but we ramped it way faster into being successful at bookkeeping. That's not even trying. So I really feel like we're not using as much gas pedal as we feel, because the natural inertia of the things God has already blessed is taking us into the future. The first thing I do is I got to recognize that change is normal and change is constant. You know, I've had a couple kids now. They're all getting ready to be adults, and it's so amazing watching them transition into adulthood. But think back, if I rewind the tape, you know, here they are as little babies, and they're cute and they're small and they're totally dependent and they're wonderful, and you're showing everybody. And if they stayed like that was cool till they were a couple months old. If they were still like that at a couple years old, it goes from being cute to something's wrong. Change is normal. Change is constant. We are changing. In fact, anything that stagnates ends up really dying. Or we have to address, why is it stagnating in natural life? So I think the first thing that I'm trying to remind myself, and what I hope everybody reminds themselves, is change is normal. I get concerned that sometimes we try to deceive our own self and go, oh, this is just season, and then everything will calm down. It'll just all smooth out. There isn't a season where you're not changing, or else you're stagnating, which is really close to plateauing. So I think change is normal. I think change is constant. The next framework I tell myself, and when I'm working through this, and I hope people that are watching the video, is say, okay, I have to come to grips with that. Change is normal, change is constant. Change isn't easy. Like, I just think it's okay to say that. Change isn't easy. And I want you to know, I get it. I feel it. We're 100 plus. I remember when we were less than 10. There's lots of times I had to go through and say, this is not easy. This, Johnny, wasn't that. I remember being in a basement. I remember we could buy lunch for everybody for under 50 bucks. You know, this isn't that. It's not easy. I had to work through what the loss of that is. This hurts. At some level, even success, growth, it hurts. Again, watching my kids go into adulthood, you know, going and getting their own places and all this sort of stuff, like that's not easy. It's right, but it's not easy. And so I have to sometimes just embrace that and say, change is going to happen. Change is good. It's not always easy. So there's going to be some emotion around that. One thing I have to do is, as the CEO and visionary of the organization, I have to keep bringing us back to True North, right? So the next thing I like to work through is that change has to be embraced. It can be embraced, right? There's a sense, again, where I hear people say, feels like everything's changing. Everything's changing. And I sympathize with that. Those feelings aren't facts. Feelings are not facts. Everything is not changing. The facts are most things are not changing. Our mission isn't changing. Our vision isn't changing. Our purpose isn't changing. Our focus isn't changing. Our values aren't changing. When I start doing that, I start blowing away the fog that's causing confusion. You know, okay, what's true? The floor is still solid. These walls are still up. That camera's still on. All of a sudden I say, okay, it's 3 or 4 things that are changing. That begins to bite-size the tension I'm actually working through. That's important. You can tell where you're at because it's out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. All we ever do is change. Everything is changing. That's not true. Sometimes when you hear, and you might hear a fellow teammate say that, you know they're in that spot, you know, where it's all feeling like it's changing. One of the things we can do to help our fellow teammates is say, I know it feels like that. What's not changing? What's solid? What can I definitely count on? Because once I have True North, this is what I found in my own life. Once I found True North, then I can navigate forward. One time I loved to fish. I was in Florida and I was fishing and I was catching fish all day I didn't realize it, but a fog was coming in off the morning. So I'm fishing and the next thing I looked up and I couldn't see land. And I began to panic. I could not tell which way was home. And I'm sitting there and I begin to panic and I can feel my heart racing. It's like, what am I going to do? I'm caught in this fog. And I looked down and happened to see a compass. And I was like, I have a compass. All of a sudden, I knew True North. As soon as I knew True North, I knew a way to get home. Everything got better. When you're in an organization that is growing, You have to remind yourself sometimes true north. Hey, what's not changing? We're helping church planners every single day. We're waking up every day trying to find what's the next challenge that we can solve with a product or service. What's not changing is our mission based in values, in our honor. We are still going to work hard, smart, together through it, no matter what it is. Those things are not changing. Some of what we sell will. Some of how we produce, some of what we do will, but by and large, true north is still true north. That helps me to embrace and walk through that. And then being honest about what is changing, okay? So what really is changing as you go through this whole thing and you look at, and again, I'm just working myself through this, recognizing change is constant, recognizing change is painful. I'm getting to the stage where well, then what really is changing? Not everything is changing. Most change is actually positive. I was actually thinking through, recently we've had promotions. Recently we promoted Laura over to product owner. That's awesome. I mean, Laura's been here and she's getting ready to be the product owner in a new department, our products department. We've recently hired a new senior developer. We have seen Ryan become a pod leader. We've seen Chasten become a team lead. We've seen Landon go from care team over to sales team. Those are good changes. They're changes. These are changes that have some emotional and some things we have to adapt to, but those are largely positive. So what is changing? There has been some people transition out of the company. Daniel's gone on to work somewhere else. We're applauding for him. It's a great step in his career. And one or two others have transitioned out of the company. But by and large, if I remind myself what really is changing, most of it's positive, then I can embrace that differently. I like to call it name it. What am I actually struggling with? I'm struggling with the change that I don't know everybody anymore. Like me personally, I'm walking down the hall and I've got to look at the picture sometimes because I'm trying to make sure that I remember when I just knew everybody. I knew everybody's dogs' names, I want to make sure that I just recognize that it hurts me sometimes. It's painful to me that it's larger than I know. It's not a small group anymore. Everybody's got to go through that. I actually encourage you to work through when you have a one-on-one with your direct report. Can I just name what I'm struggling with? I'm struggling with X. And I know it's good change. I know, or here's what I'm working through, but I just need to name it. I just need to say it. Something about that to me takes it out of the dark, puts it into the light, and all of a sudden it loses some of its power. And then in that, once I've named it, the sense of purposely letting it go. We're not who we once were, and it hurts. Change is constant. Change is normal. I miss what was, but I'm pretty stoked about what's coming. And I can breathe and just give myself a release on one level so that I can pursue the next level. When we talk about leveling up is leaving something. It is leaving one level of your skills or one level of your commitment or one level of your team. You're leaving something to go up. If I work through that process, what's changing? How did it feel? Naming it, letting it go. All of a sudden I've worked to this place of now then, once I've done that, I got to remember my why. What makes this worth it, right? What makes the whole thing worth it? It's the why. It's the why that we can lose the quickest. But once we regain it, it's like Pac-Man eating the power pill. Over the last couple of years, I've taken up endurance sports. I know I look like a catcher, but I think I'm a shortstop. So I've had to learn to run long. I'm training for a race now that's 50 kilometers, running 50 kilometers, which years ago sounded crazy. But what I had to do is I had to learn when you run long, there comes points where it's not fun. So I ran home last night. It was like 10 miles to run home. And as I'm running home, the first hour is great. It's fun, I'm moving, I love it. Sun's going down, it's wonderful. Then it stops being fun. It starts being hard. It starts being painful. I have to remember the why. I got to remember, why am I out here? For me, it's a certain amount of health. I want to be real healthy. I got to remember the big race that's coming up that I'm preparing for. I got to remember some of the inspiration I've given to some people who are starting to get involved, because they said, what, I need to get moving. All of a sudden, my whys overcome the pain of the moment, and I keep putting in the miles. And I made it. I made it home last night. I think similarly that happens all the time in organizations like this. is I got to remember, why am I here? This is the greatest place in the world. I was just thinking recently, the whys about my own job. Number one, I think it's noble to put food on the table. I think it's noble to work. I think working here is a phenomenal place. I think I do this because of the church planters. Every day, people are calling us with this sort of small, tender whisper of a vision that they believe is the Lord, and they're looking for somebody to believe in it and get behind them. Every single day, we help those people. I do this for church planters who need the encouragement. I do this for the protection. How many people have protected what God has called them to lead? I do this because I love the people I work with. I just spent the whole day with different teams of people. And I know that when I'm doing this and I do it right and I do it to my best, I'm actually helping all these people around succeed. I love these people. I want to do my job. It's my why. I do this because I think the future of what Start Church is, I think we're just entering into that second S curve. What could be and should be for us over the next decade. When I look there, then I just keep running. It doesn't matter the pain, it doesn't matter those things I work through, because the vision is so strong. So I'd encourage anybody who's working through the process of organizational change, working through the pain, hey, to remind yourself, change is really normal. Change hurts. I'm going to name it. I'm just going to say, this is what specifically bothered me. I'm going to work through letting it go. And then I'm going to remind myself, why am I here at Start Church anyway? What makes me get up in the morning? Once you do that, all of a sudden, the pace picks up. All of a sudden, this doesn't feel like everything's changing. It feels like everything's growing. And I get to be a part of it. I hope everybody goes through that.